What About Mirabel by GryffindorGyrl1997. Chapter 10. The door burst open to reveal Peppa and Felix, which was definitely not what Dolores was expecting. "Oh, mi Sabrina!" Peppa sobbed, rushing Mirabel and pulling her into her arms. "We've been so worried. How are you feeling? Do you remember what happened? What?" "Let her breathe, ma vida." Felix chided gently, and Peppa pulled back and looked Mirabel over. "I feel okay, Tia Peppa," she assured. "I sort of remember what happened. Dolores and Dr. Gonzalez and Tio Bruno have been filling me in." At the reminder that Dolores was still in the room, Peppa turned to her daughter, allowing Felix to move in and greet Mirabel himself. "I thought I gave my hermano instructions to send you away," she said, eyebrow raised. "Mirabel was awake when he got here," Dolores exclaimed. "Don't make me leave her." "Please, don't make her leave, Tia," Mirabel begged. "Please, don't." Peppa let out a sigh. "I guess she can stay for a while longer." She winked at Mirabel, and Mirabel grinned back at her. "Where's Mama and Papa?" Mirabel asked then, her voice sounding surprisingly vulnerable. "They had to come into town for some supplies, so they weren't there when Dr. Gonzalez came to get them. He went to find them. They should be here soon." Peppa pulled Mirabel into her arms again. "We've been so worried," she repeated. Dolores almost laughed at Mirabel's expression. She didn't seem to know what to make of this change in her family. If Mirabel was thrown off by this, she was going to have a heck of a time understanding the rest of the family. It wasn't long before they heard another set of footsteps, and no one was surprised to see Julieta and Augustine. Peppa and Felix made their way out of the room, and Bruno retreated to the corner, giving them their space. Dolores would have moved as well, but her prima's death grip on her wrist wouldn't allow her to. And if Mirabel wanted her there, she wasn't going to deny her prima that wish. "Oh, mi amor," Julieta breathed, stepping forward almost tentatively and cupping Mirabel's face in both hands. Augustine was right behind her, and both were crying. "Hi, Mama," Mirabel whispered, leaning into her touch. And that broke the dam. Julieta burst into tears and pulled Mirabel into a hug. Dolores had to smile as Mirabel finally loosened her grip on Dolores' wrist to hug Julieta back, and Augustine hugged them both, all of them crying. Dolores moved over to stand with Tio Bruno. "You okay?" he murmured gently. "I'm excelente," Dolores declared. I was really starting to worry." She couldn't finish her thought. It was too painful. "Yes," Bruno murmured. "I'm sure you were. I was too. But she's awake now." "And now is when we really step it up." Dolores was quiet but firm. "Now we prove that things have changed." Bruno laughed quietly at her. "Have you really not seen it?" "Seen what?" "Dolores, you're all doing it. The way you've protected Antonio and Luisa, the way you're watching out for each other when working, making sure everyone is taking care of everyone. The only thing that changes now is incorporating Mirabel. But with her in a coma, you've all been watching out for her, prioritizing her. All 5 of you had that massive argument with Abuela just a few weeks ago about the bedrooms." Flashback. Having plans that they could see for the plan of the house was really exciting. Even though none of them really think talking to Abuela, none of them could resist seeing the building plans. "We have planned it to be as close to overmatched to Casita as possible." Abuela was showing Peppa, Felix and Bruno. Bruno and Dolores managed to wiggle in, but Dolores was having trouble making out what the plans were saying. She watched as Abuela pointed out various rooms, and eventually Dolores felt like she had an idea of what she was looking at. But Isabella had come to the same conclusion as Dolores had, and was just a step ahead of her. "Where's Mirabel's room?" All of the rest of their rooms were marked with their names, and there was still a nursery. Surely, now that they had control over the rooms in the house, Mirabel would be getting a room. "I told you, the house is designed to be as close of a match to Casita as possible." Abuela sounded irritated. "Well, you need to change it and add a room for Mirabel." Dolores looked at all of the adults aghast. "I hadn't looked at the bedrooms yet," Peppa admitted. Mama, the girls are correct. Mirabel needs her own room. Their plans are already made. Then remake them, Bruno said quietly. It's not that simple. Abuela was quickly getting angry with them. Well, I refuse to live in a house where Mirabel is still being overlooked and not given her own room, Isabella declared. Me too, Dolores nodded. The others had heard the commotion. You still haven't given Mirabel her own room, Louisa asked quietly from behind. That's bullshit, Camilo scoffed, and it showed how upset their mama and papa were that no one reprimanded him for his language. We are trying to get back to how things were before, Abuela started. Louisa cut her off, her voice full of disbelief. No, we aren't. She shook her head. We are trying to move forward. That's different. Yes, most of us are actively trying to change. To be better. Not to go back to how things were before, Peppa said, her own voice hard. Yeah, the way things were before wasn't good. Camila was quiet. Mirabel almost died because of the way things were before. Tio Bruno left because of how things were before. All of us were suffering with the pressure from our gifts because of the way things were before. Why would we want to go back to that? Fix it, Mama, Peppa said firmly. The children are correct. Mirabel needs her own room. And you better have fixed this before you show it to Julieta, because I suspect she would be more upset than all of us combined to find that you are still delegating her youngest daughter to the nursery. It was only a day later that they were looking at the new plans, with Mirabel's room planted firmly between Louisa's and Isabella's. Definitely not in the nursery. Present time. But, no buts, Sabrina. Bruno's face was uncharacteristically firm. Stop. You cannot control the actions of others. You cannot control how they treat Mirabel moving forward. You can only control your own actions. You can certainly keep them accountable, but you cannot stress yourself out over this the way that you are. He kept his voice low, and their conversation was going unnoticed by the other 3 people in the room. Okay, she agreed reluctantly. Besides, I don't think you have anything to worry about, Bruno said. Most of the family has woken up. They don't want to go back to how things were. Yeah, you're right. She relaxed a little bit, and was turning her attention back to Mirabel, who was now checking on her parents and their health. Typical Mirabel. She wakes up from a coma and wants to make sure everyone else is okay. She really was too good, too pure, especially considering how everyone else had treated her for so long. Julieta moved and sat down next to Mirabel, pulling her into her side and wrapping her arms around her. Augustine did the same thing on the other side of her, and they all just sat in silence, reveling in the fact that Mirabel was awake and alert and responsive. The silence was disrupted by another pair of footsteps. The ones who hadn't been in to see Mirabel yet were Camilo and Antonio, and Isabella and Luisa. Antonio didn't even stop as he burst through the door, throwing his whole body straight into Mirabel's lap, crying his eyes out. Mirabel caught him with reflexes that surprised Dolores, and she held Antonio as he continued to cry into her shirt, his little body shaking. Dolores knew that he was close to their prima, but she hadn't realized just how attached he was to her until this moment. Camilo stood back, shifting from foot to foot as he anxiously waited to have access to Mirabel as well. Mirabel smiled softly at Camilo over Antonio's head, though. "Hello, primo," she murmured. "How are you feeling?" "I'm fine," she nodded at him, rocking Antonio. She looked down at him as he quieted down and started to laugh. "He's sleeping," she shook her head. "Here." Dolores stood up to take him. "Let me hold him for you." Mirabel reluctantly handed the youngest Madrigal over to Dolores, who opened her up for hugs from Camilo. "I'm so sorry, Mirabel," Camilo said quietly to her as he held her. "I've not been the best cousin recently, but I'm going to change that. I'm so sorry." Mirabel waved him off. "You haven't done anything to apologize for." "I do," he said. "I did not include you or stand up for you the way I should have. I didn't protect you or defend you from the family or townspeople. For all of that, I'm truly sorry." "You don't have anything to apologize for," she repeated. But if it makes you feel better, you are forgiven. He grinned at her. I'll make it up to you. Mirabel protested, but Camilo wasn't going to take no for an answer. He spent the next hour or so making her laugh and being a general clown. But everything came to a halt when they heard more footsteps. The only people it could be, and would be, is Isabella and Louisa. And Mirabel knew it. The tight expression on her face proved it. Come on, Camilo. Dolores stood up with Antonio still asleep in her arms. She motioned with her head towards the door. Bruno had left a while ago, so they were the only ones beside Julieta and Augustine in there. Wait! Mirabel protested, but Dolores shook her head. No, prima. You'll be fine. She smiled gently. Talk to your hermanas. I promise I'll be back soon. Mirabel barely had time to nod hesitantly when the door flew open to reveal the two girls. Dolores quickly moved out of the way and slipped behind them, outside. She hung in the hallway with Camilo for a moment, just long enough to hear Isabella start her apology through her tears. Camilo and Dolores exchanged a satisfied grin, leaving to head back to the church. Maybe things would be okay. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh, that's lovely. It really is. Oh, Julieta and Augustine's reunion and Antonio just crying. And that bit with Camilo, that was so lovely. We don't get much of him, but he's blown up in the fandom, which I absolutely love. And I like the idea that they're really close in age, so they would have been close. But because of his gift and her being in the nursery, they separated over time. I like that. That is a common... It's not in this fic, but it's a common thing in the fandom that people believe that, because I think that's how it works in Colombia. Forgive me if I'm wrong, I don't know anything about the culture there apart from what I've seen from Encanto. And apparently it's pretty accurate, apart from the magic, of course. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, check out my other videos, and hit the bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Bye!